Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The Honourable Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, the Honourable Stuart Young, Minister of National Security, Communication and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Honourable Edmund Dillon, Member of Parliament, Pt.Fortin, and Minister of Housing and Urban Development, His Worship the Mayor of Pt.Fortin, Councillor Abden Mason, other Cabinet Ministers, party officers, PNM activists all, supporters of the PNM, residents of Pt.Fortin and surrounding communities and constituencies, especially recognize Labore, Faizabad and Siparia, our adjoining and neighboring communities, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. What can I say? Welcome to the PNM's Let's Talk Energy. And there's no better place to let's talk energy than the energy capital of Trinidad and Tobago, the borough of Pt.Fortin. The chairman reminded me of my previous portfolio, so I have to say something about that. I always said that Pt.Fortin was the best run borough in all of Trinidad and Tobago. And I still maintain that, because this is a unique community. It is the cleanest borough. But most importantly, what I have realized over 2 decades in politics, it has the most patriotic budgets to its community. I know the people of Pt.Fortin love their community, but I also know the people of Pt.Fortin love the PNM. And by extension, the people of Pt.Fortin love the leader of the PNM and the current Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, Pt.Fortin has been good to the PNM. As a matter of fact, the only time we lost the seat was in the 33-3. So in a sense, it's only Laventil and San Fernando East beats back Pt.Fortin in that regard. It is one of the 3 regional corporations and municipalities that has a clean PNM sweep. The other 2 are Diego Martin, which is represented by our Honorable Prime Minister, and of course, Port of Spain, which is represented by the Honorable Stuart Young. So the theme for tonight was well chosen, apart from energy. But ladies and gentlemen, let me briefly say something, and then I'll leave this area and focus on energy. One of the first policy decisions the then political leader of the PNM took, and he was opposition leader of the time, was that we will form a Ministry of Rural Development, which I had the distinction of serving at the grace of the Honorable Prime Minister. We identified 3 areas in Trinidad that, because of their distance and their lack of infrastructure from the urban centers, were lagging behind. They are Northeast Trinidad, Sandy Grande, Tokuda general area, the South Coast, in particular Moruga, the Moruga Road, and in a general extent, the Southwestern Peninsula. And that has been the driver of development as the 2030 vision, because development has to come to these communities by government policy. Left on its own, it will never happen. So because of that, we have driven a policy. The Southwestern Peninsula, we have decided, as a matter of priority, to continue the Pt.Fortin to San Fernando Highway. The UNC was building the San Fernando to Penal Highway, you know. It started as the Pt.Fortin Highway. But look at that, the first leg of the highway was Golconda to Debe. And then it continued to Penal. It was almost finished to Penal, you know. After that, they would have stopped, they would have forget you. It is because of the PNM and the Prime Minister said the highway has to start from Bamboo Junction by Gulf City and come down the creek, come to Labrador and to Pt.Fortin. And that we plan to complete before the end of 2020. But brothers and sisters, there's a lot of things that is going on in the Southwest Peninsula, which I will speak about at another forum. There's the dry docking facility in Labrador, the completion of the CCL plant, which Minister Young had to renegotiate the contract, the construction of the Pt.Fortin Hospital, the remodeling of the business model for Lake Asphalt, and several other activities in the Southwestern Peninsula, because we have to remember this area is the Southwestern Peninsula. It's not Pt.Fortin alone. It includes Labrador. It includes a part that has been left behind, which is the Santa Flora to Erin component, and all that has to be put into the developmental agenda. Minister Young dealt very sweetly, I want of a better word, with the gas sector. Tonight, I will deal with oil. Because we met two crises, a most significant one in oil, in gas, which Minister Young explained the solution we have crafted. But there was also a major crisis in oil and the state oil sector. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a major crisis in Pt.Fortin. And today my talk, in a sense, is entitled Life After the Old Pt.Fortin, Creating a New Future. Because we didn't shut down Pt.Fortin, We shut down Caroni. We came out of sugar. We haven't come out of oil, We have remodeled the business model. We have revamped, restructured, and retooled the state oil sector by the formation of these new companies reporting to a holding company. And that is what I will articulate to you and show you that we had the political will to so do. Because the facts were glaring us in the face. And the facts have been glaring us in the face for over a decade. And everybody kicked the can down the road. It took leadership at its strongest and highest level to accomplish this. There were times I will go to sleep at night having a presentation on what was happening at Pt.Fortin. And it became clear to me that is the way we had to go. But I still wondered, will the Prime Minister do it? Because there are significant economic, social, and political fallout to that decision. Two of our strongest constituencies are Pt.Fortin and Labrador. You don't know, we know, that some of the people here are hurting. I worked at Pt.Fortin for 23 years. I worked in Santa Flora for 18 years before I went back to Pt.Fortin. Most of my friends and my colleagues worked with me. And here I am as the Energy Minister, revamping a company in the national interest. Because if we had not done it, this country would have hurt badly, and I'll explain to you why. The debt burden at Pt.Fortin was over 13 billion TT dollars. And that debt burden came from several things. Operating losses over the years, fueled by two components. One, poor investment decisions, cost overrun, and poor project management. In particular, the gas optimization program at the refinery in Pt.Fortin, the ULSD plant, the ultra-low sulfur diesel plant, and what is now the Naikwan plant, the gas to liquids plant. There was an upcoming US $850 million bullet payment due in August, next 2 months. Where would have Pt.Fortin sourced that money from? They would have come to the government. All right, I'll leave it there for now. There was high operating cost. So high that is ridiculous. Pt.Fortin was the only oil company in the world, and I know the international oil industry, I've worked all over the world, that used to run 8-hour shifts. Everywhere in the world, onshore, offshore, Middle East, Africa, United States, Texas, you run a 12-hour shift. And at point up here, what was happening? When you finish your 8-hour shift, your replacement call in sick. And it's a planned strategy. So every month, I look at an overtime list. There were normal operators making $70,000 and $80,000 a month in overtime. Pt.Fortin had an agreement with the Oilfield Workers Trade Union where it was agreed that even though you're awarding a contract to do work, you have to pay your WTU rates. But then what is the purpose of contracts? So here what will happen? The OWTU rate for a laborer is $700 a day. CPF workers working for less than 100. $700 a day. So if you take a small contractor to cut the lawn in Point-à-Pied, you have to pay that contractor the equivalent of $700 TT per day per laborer plus a markup. You think that contractor paying his laborer $700 a day? Who is becoming wealthy out of that? And these are some of the systems that the union was protecting. Now here what's happening again. On the exploration and production side, the lifting costs, this is how we measure profitability in exploration and production. The lifting cost, which is the operating cost to lift a barrel of crude from the ground. Your well's pumping it, using 20 barrels a day. How much is it costing you to lift a barrel of crude? The lifting cost for land was $40 a barrel. So what it means is that if oil is $40 a barrel, you're not making money. Plus you have overheads. Plus you have loans to service. What is more ridiculous? The lifting cost at Trinma, which was always the lowest in the history of Pt.Fortin, was $44 per barrel. And this is what took the cake that finally caused the deal breaker in the decision. Refinery margins. I don't have enough time to give you the evolution of the Point-à-Pied refinery. But suffice it to say, there was a time Texaco used to refine 350,000 barrels of oil per day. Because Texaco didn't get 350,000 barrels per day from Trinidad, but they had a source of crude. It was a big international oil company. We ended up running a refinery at 150,000 barrels per day, with only a 40 to 45,000 barrel a day indigenous crude supply, which means that we had to import 100,000 barrels of crude. And this is what takes the cake. For every barrel of oil we refined at Point-à-Pied, we were losing between $5 to $7 per barrel. Losing it. So you're buying crude, expensive on the market, to lose $5 to $7 per day. That is a hopeless case, ladies and gentlemen. Saddled in which your lifting costs for production was getting higher and higher. So, we looked at the consolidated accounts of Pt.Fortin. And Pt.Fortin was forecasted to lose approximately $2 billion per annum going forward. Now, we disaggregated the accounts into exploration and production and refining. What we found that refining alone was losing more than $2 billion. Exploration and production was making a profit. But the consolidated accounts of the company showed they were losing that. So the decision was crystal clear. One, we would stay in the exploration and production business with a revamped and more efficient work process with new capital investment and new technology. And the state had no other choice but to get out of refining. And this is the plan, as clear as the sultry songs of summer. The refinery is now up for lease and or sale. The bids have come in. We are presently evaluating the bids, and we hope within the next 2 months or so, we will be in a position to have a preferred bidder. Now, what this will do, without prejudging the situation, is that a new operator will come. They will have to re-employ a significant part of the very staff that worked at Pt.Fortin Refinery. So these people who worked at the refinery, getting a not lucrative but a attractive severance package, will now be re-employed with a new operator, and they will now work under new working conditions, and they will become more efficient. The new operator will provide two things. They will provide a source of crude. So we would not have to put out scarce foreign exchange to buy 100,000 barrels of crude. They bring in their crude. The only conditions we ask, apart from the fiscal terms or what taxes they will pay, etc., is that they have to guarantee a supply to the local market first and foremost. And as a government, there's nothing wrong with that. We make no apologies for that. So they want to refine 150,000. We use the equivalent of 25,000 barrels of fuel per day in the local market. They will provide that first at a price that is reasonable, because we had a formula we used to use with the refinery in any event called the ex-refinery price. They will run their business. They will fall under scrutiny. They will employ people, and they will pay taxes. What I didn't tell you is Pt.Fortin hadn't paid taxes for years. Pt.Fortin, as we speak, is owing the state $3 billion in taxes and outstanding royalties. So it was an unsustainable business. And to make matters worse, if we had kept Pt.Fortin and kept the status quo, and because they weren't in a position to refinance the loans, they would have had to get a government guarantee. And what that government guarantee would have done, they would have forced the rating agency to downgrade Trinidad and Tobago. And when you get downgraded, immediately your interest rates goes up. Mr. Young, am I right? Correct? Even for loans that you have already negotiated, Not new loans, you're going to pay higher interest, so loans you have already negotiated at 7%, it will go to 9%. And that was a major, major risk in which we faced. And just as we dealt with gas, as Minister Young explained, we had to deal with oil. And I will now explain to you what this new model entails. Garatcara refining and the terminaling facilities will very likely be leased to a private operator. Very likely an international operator, but there is no indigenous capacity to run a refinery of that size and complexity. We will be focusing on heritage. Heritage has two components, land and offshore. Well, they now call it heritage offshore, but we know it as TRINMA, land operations. But Pt.Fortin was being run so endemically bad that for years, as the Prime Minister always liked to say, is the only oil company in the world he knew that doesn't drill for oil. It's the only company that for 2.5 years hasn't drilled a single well. How do you find oil? I'm a geologist, the Prime Minister is a geologist. You have to drill. You have to invest. All the oil fields, in particular the oil fields on land, are very old. UBOT, Shell, most of them were formed by UBOT and Shell in the 30s and in the 40s, right here in Pt.Fortin. Pt.Fortin Central, Pt.Fortin West, and Pt.Fortin East. Guapo, Palaseco, Central Los Bajos, Faizabad, Forest Reserve. All these oil fields were formed in the 1920s and 1930s. So if you're not looking for oil, you cannot find oil. And the only way you could look for oil is to do the studies, run the seismic in particular, and drill wells. So we have put heritage on a production model. Land and offshore. Land is more challenging because the technology right now that it's transforming the exploration and production business is called 3D seismic, or better known now as OBN seismic, which is ocean bottom nodes, but that is only one offshore. On land, it is creating an explosive and it could have structural damages to building and what have you. But there are other technologies that we could use on land. But we have to use new technologies, enhance oil recovery, CO2 injection, bring back steam flooding, and some of these other activities to enhance the oil recovery process. Going to new pumping technology, going to new gas lifting technology. But ladies and gentlemen, we are in a transition. We have to give the company a chance to settle and put its systems in place. And let me deal with a pet peeve that came, an issue this weekend. On Saturday morning, my phone rang off the hook, message after message, that Heritage was going to block the road from Santa Flora to Pt.Fortin. I got a message from a member for library from Pt.Fortin and a series of people. I investigated it because that was denying public access that the communities had grown accustomed to for over 40 years. Intuitively, I said, that can't be right. However, bearing in mind that they're thieving 3 to 5 motos a day from the fields, something has to be done. So I put a stop of the denial of public access. But I told them that they have a right to stop and search. Because a motor is 200 pounds, a man can lift it up and walk out with it. It has to come with a truck or a van. So they must have access to do the stealing. So that system is now in place, and I think both sides are happy with the resolution that we crafted. But let me just caution the communities. You know, in the days of Caroni, during the crop time, there were signs all over Caroni in 1975 which said, "Don't set fire to the cane. It is our life. I say don't thief the motors because the oil is our life. Because when you thief a motor, it is not the motor which costs $3,000 or $7,000 you're thieving. The well, the motor drives the pump. And if the well is producing 20 barrels a day, you lose that 20 barrels. Until you get a rig to come and walk over the well, install a new pump. And almost invariably, when you do that, the well doesn't come back on at 20 barrels per day. So Heritage has lost significant revenue because of the theft. Not revenue from the stealing of the pump per se, but the overall production of the fields. So the communities, everybody is a watchman in their communities. If you know people whose head it is to do that, tell them it is wrong. It is hurting the company, it is hurting the revenue, it is hurting Trinidad and Tobago, and it is hurting the surrounding communities in this area. And now, I move to Trinma. Now, before I move to Trinma, to show you how we have ramped up the activities on land. There are now 14 walkover rigs working for Heritage. I told them last week, I said, take on 4 to 6 more rigs. You know what I was told? There isn't none available. Because the market, the local market, cannot supply. People need time to get rigs in operation. Okay, so it means that we have exhausted the rig capacity as we speak. And I'm happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen, that after 2.5 years, with my encouragement and the Prime Minister's encouragement, Pt.Fortin has drilled its first well last week. Not Pt.Fortin, Heritage. Right here in Pt.Fortin is a Pt.Fortin Central well. And it has been a successful well. But the jewel in the crown is Trinma. Since I was a young geologist in this industry in the 80s, I think Trinma has potential. I worked in Trinma for a while, and I know Trinma has potential. But we just didn't get it right. Without disclosing too much, you will have seen on the papers where Heritage has signed a memorandum of understanding with Shell. For Shell to run OBN, or ocean bottom node seismic, which is their most advanced technology in the world. It's been used on the East Coast as we speak. It's being used all over the world to search for and to identify prospects and oil. And that project is about to start by the end of this year. With that new data set, I can guarantee you that significant discoveries will be made in the Trinma acreage. And you know there's a saying, what goes around comes around, you know. It's the very Shell that left Trinidad right here in Pt.Fortin in 1974. 45 years after giving up their equity in the very Trinma. They had 1/3 interest in Trinma. They have seen it fit to come back into a joint venture with us to go and do some serious exploration for oil and gas in the Trinma acreage. Trinma shares a border with Venezuela. The Venezuelan border is not only on the east coast, you know. It's not only on the north coast near the Dragon, you know. Pataos and down southwest Soldado is within eyesight of the Venezuelan border. And from the regional geological perspective, the closer you are to Venezuela, ladies and gentlemen, the better your chances are of finding oil and gas. People don't realize it, but Venezuela has the highest oil reserves in the world. In the world, you know. More than Saudi Arabia. More than the entire Middle East. So Venezuela is not something to shrug off as as a non-entity. Venezuela has a strategic role to play in the future of the energy industry in Trinidad and Tobago. And it matters not to us which regime is in authority or in power. We're looking at this strategic relationship from a resource development point of view. And it is again because of the leadership of our Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, we have been able to broker the Dragon deal, and now we're in the process of talking to the Venezuelans to develop Manatee before Lauren. So, ladies and gentlemen, in a sense, I feel proud to have been asked to serve as the Energy Minister after my stint at Rural Development and Local Government. Because under the strategic direction of the Honorable Prime Minister, the Standing Committee on Energy, and in particular, today I want to publicly acknowledge the role that Minister Stuart Young has played with me in transforming, in particular, the gas sector. Because they like to call him the minister of everything, and they use that to ward him off, because he's dangerous. And when they see him anywhere, they say, "What's he doing there?" And they have mimes on me, they say, "Stuart Young, take over your job." I said, "No, I am glad if he takes it over any day, I'm happy, because he's capable." And we, in the PNM government, work as a team. There's no jealousy and territorial integrity and everybody protecting the turf, You can't protect no turf under Dr. Rowley, Your turf is Trinidad and Tobago, the interests of Trinidad and Tobago. And we, as a government, is committed to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It has shown as clear as daylight. Dr. Rowley's leadership is visionary, it is firm, and it is strategic. He knows his ministers' strengths and weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses, If anybody feels they have no weakness, something wrong with you. If you feel you have no weakness, you're totally weak. He analyzes, he has always said, and probably I shouldn't say this, that one of Kamla Prasad's greatest weakness is selecting the wrong people. Well, I will go as far today as say, one of Dr. Rowley's greatest strengths is selecting the right people for the right job. So, Prime Minister, I thank you for the opportunity to serve as Minister of Energy. I'm trained in that profession. I have served as Minister of Local Government, and I will continue to serve this government to the best of my ability. I've been the chairman of the PNM on 2 successive occasions, and I know this party well. Let me tell the people of Pt.Fortin before I close. I am also the assistant campaign manager for local government election, and my responsibility includes Pt.Fortin and Siparia, so you'll see a lot of me in the coming days. And when election is called, and when it's election time, my blood will start to boil. I love elections, I love campaigning for elections, I love fighting elections, and I love winning elections. And I can tell you that under Dr. Rowley, we have not lost. And we will win in 2019 local, and we will most definitely win 2020 general election. Great is the PNM, and it shall prevail.